Servicing your Sea-Doo watercraft is something you can just do yourself, right? Besides, it's just a matter of dumping the oil and filling it up again, isn't it? Well, unfortunately, it's not quite that simple. G'day, I'm Mick Tucker from Mick's Powersports in Gawler. Sea-Doo personal watercraft have come a long way since the humble beginnings back in the late 60s, and the technology involved in these modern day water monsters requires a little more care. Hey Luke, this is Luke Ballard, our workshop manager here at Mick's Powersports. Hey mate, can you give us a quick brief through on what's involved in a basic Sea-Doo service, please?
So with servicing your Sea-Doo, we want to make sure, first of all, that your controls are correct. So we're going to make sure that everything from steering through to the angle of the jet pump at the back are all correct. It has a steering cable, so we want to make sure that that is correct and set up properly. We also want to make sure that your throttle and intelligent brake and reverse controls are good. Now these are computer controlled. We basically connect it up to our BUD system, which is our service technician software. That gives us control over all the sensors, and it also gives us an opportunity to reset service counter and your service reminder, but also test things to do with the engine electronics to make sure everything's firing correctly. From there we're going to move on. We're going to extract the oil and change the oil filter as well. We're also going to change the spark plugs. Now with changing spark plugs, we want to make sure that we're going to anti-seize the threads. We have had a couple that have come in lately that have had issues with corroded spark plugs, and they actually snap off inside the head, which is an expensive repair. So we definitely want to curb anything like that happening. Now, moving on to the cooling system. The cooling system is closed loop, meaning that it's similar to your car. Other brands of personal watercraft actually use the external water that they pump through the engine to cool it. Now with Sea-Doo, all internal, runs coolant, has a lot of cooling lines that go down to the ride plate to make sure that the engine's going to stay cool. Now that's another serviceable item that we want to make sure is good. That way if you're using it in seawater, you're not going to have salty water basically running through the engine itself. From there we're going to move on to the jet pump. Now jet pump is particularly a good point to mention due to the fact that Sea-Doo run a wear ring. Now the wear ring sits around the impeller. It's a plastic piece. Now it's designed to wear, hence the name wear ring. Basically what happens is if you suck up any debris or anything like that, instead of damaging the impeller or the actual pump housing itself, it wears this ring. The ring is reasonably inexpensive to replace, and we actually do quite a lot of these, which save replacing the whole pump housing. From there we're just going to go through, give it a front to back check over, make sure things like battery, charging system, all of the coolant lines, as well as all the other hoses, supercharger boost hoses, intercooler and everything else are fantastic. After that, she's all ready to go.
Well, there you have it. These machines are extremely tough and reliable, but you need to make sure they're getting the proper care if you expect them to stay that way. So when it's time for your machine to be serviced, give us a call or drop us an email for our trained technicians to service your Sea-Doo. We're Mick's Powersports, and we want to keep your Sea-Doo reliable. It doesn't take a rocket scientist, just a certified Sea-Doo technician.
Got a joke for you, Tice. So, guy brings his ski in, it's not running properly. So he leaves it with me, and I start working on it, spend about half an hour playing around with it, and eventually figured it out. So I ring him up, get him back in, and he asked me, he's like, oh, so what was wrong with it? I said, oh, took a bit of work, but just crap in the fuel. And he looks at me funny, he's like, how often should I do that?